Hey, what's going on? Today, we're going to talk about Overwatch 2's brand new update 4.10. And trust me, this patch is one of those moments where the game feels like it's shifting again. There's so much going on here. New events, crossover content, balance changes that are definitely going to shake up the ladder, and of course, a bunch of bug fixes and quality of life updates that players have been asking for. So let's just walk through all of this like we're sitting down chatting because the details are stacked, and I want to really take the time to break it down in a way that feels natural and easy to follow. First off, let's talk about the flashy stuff, the content people are going to notice right away when they log in. The Phantom Thieves crossover, the Persona 5 content, that's huge. Blizzard went all in on this one, not just with cosmetics, but with UI changes, map secrets, and those fun little in-game touches that make it feel more than just a skin bundle. For a lot of players, this is the first real collaboration that feels like it carries weight, because Persona has such a massive fan base and aesthetic. Seeing Overwatch 2 characters styled with that flashy, rebellious, anime-inspired energy is going to pull in people who maybe stepped away from the game. And that's exactly the kind of shot in the arm Overwatch needs sometimes. And the fact that this runs from September 16th through the 29th means it's a limited window, so if you're into collecting, you're probably already thinking about which skins you want to grab before they disappear for who knows how long. But right alongside that, there's the anniversary event for 2025. This one is running from September 16th through October 13th, and it's basically Blizzard giving us that nostalgic trip through the game's history. Weekly throwback modes, unique rewards, and it's kind of that reminder that Overwatch has had so many iconic arcade modes and events over the years. Having them rotated back in keeps things fresh without needing entirely new game modes every time. Players who've been around since the early days will love revisiting them, and newer players get to experience some of the things they missed out on. And of course, the rewards are a big motivator too. Anniversary events usually bring back skins, sprays, and other cosmetics, sometimes even giving players a chance at old exclusives. So between the crossover and the anniversary, the calendar is packed, and that's already reason enough to jump back in. Now let's get into the competitive scene, because that's where things start to feel really impactful. One of the biggest updates here is the extension of lever compensation into core competitive play. If you've been grinding ranked, you know how frustrating it is when someone on your team leaves. It tanks your chances of winning, it feels unfair, and up until now, the punishment system was mostly focused on punishing the lever, not protecting the people left behind. With this update, if a teammate bails on your game and they're not in your party, your rank progression loss is reduced. That means less punishment for something completely out of your control. The higher you climb in skill tier, the smaller that reduction becomes, so it still feels competitive at the top, but it's a nice bit of fairness injected into the lower and mid ranks. Of course, leavers themselves get the full penalty, so Blizzard isn't going soft on that front. And if you queue with someone and they leave, you're still affected, which is fair. It keeps people from trying to abuse the system with friends. It's not a perfect solution, but it's one of those quality of life changes that's going to make ranked feel less punishing when bad luck strikes. All right, now the meat of the conversation, the balance changes. This patch is loaded with tweaks across tanks, DPS, and supports, and these are the kinds of numbers that can completely shift the way matches play out. Starting with tanks, Hazard is taking a hit with spike guard damage reduction being lowered from 65% down to 60%, and violent leap damage being reduced from 80 to 70. It doesn't sound massive on paper, but tanks live and die by those percentage numbers. So Hazard players are definitely going to feel a bit squishier when they're trying to protect the team. Ramatra, on the other hand, is actually getting a buff. His bonus armor in Nemesis form is bumped up from 250 to 275, which means he's going to be more durable when he charges in. That's a direct boost to his survivability and his presence in the front line. Roadhog is seeing some love too. His scrap gun's critical damage multiplier is up from 1.5 to 2, and Take a Breather regenerates health faster now, going from 10 per second to 12.5. That's a really interesting change because Hog's always been that hero who can make big picks, and now his crit potential is scarier. Wrecking Ball, on the flip side, is being tuned down. His quad cannon's max ammo is dropping from 100 to 80, and his Minefield ultimate is being shortened from 20 seconds to 16. That's a clear attempt to keep him from stalling out fights for too long, and to limit how much disruption he can maintain. Switching over to the DPS lineup, Genji mains are going to be feeling this one. Deflect's cooldown is going up from 8 to 10 seconds. That's a 2-second increase that really changes how often he can play aggressively. Hanzo's storm arrows are losing that oversized projectile hitbox advantage, so they're basically the same as his normal arrows now, which should make them feel a little fairer to fight against. Torbjorn, interestingly enough, is getting stronger. His overload lasts longer now, 6 seconds instead of 5, and his Molten Core ultimate got a damage bump from 160 DPS to 190. That's a scary increase, and it makes his area denial even deadlier. Tracer in the Stadium mode specifically has her perk cost increased by 25%, which feels like Blizzard to keep her high mobility balance balanced in that unique mode. Widowmaker's grappling hook is coming back faster, with a cooldown drop from 12 seconds to 10, and her Venom Mine damage is way higher now, going from 75 total damage to 125. That's a buff that's going to make her mine more threatening, not just an annoyance you clear out of the way. On the support side, Brigitte is stepping up with shield bash damage being increased from 50 to 70. That extra punch means she can threaten squishier heroes a lot more, and they fixed her combat medic perk bug, so it's not triggering on things it shouldn't anymore. Lucio's being toned down slightly with his sonic amplifier projectiles reduced from 22 damage to 20 each. It's not huge, but considering his speed boost utility, it keeps him from being too strong in raw damage output. Wu Yang's kit is also being adjusted, with Rushing Torrent's cooldown going from 7 to 8 seconds, and Guardian Wave's healing amplification lasting 3 seconds instead of 4. That makes his sustain windows shorter, so teams can't rely on him quite as heavily for extended pushes. And since we're talking about unique game modes, Stadium got its own specific updates as well. Tracer's being added to the roster, which is exciting for players who love her mobility and pacing. On top of that, Blizzard has tweaked a bunch of Stadium-specific powers and passives to balance out cooldowns and overall strength. It's not just dropping new heroes into the mode, but also making sure the ecosystem of abilities stays competitive and fun. That's important because Stadium is supposed to feel like its own wild twist on Overwatch, and little adjustments like this keep it from being completely dominated by just a handful of picks. Of course, every update comes with a long list of bug fixes, and 4.10 is no different. A bunch of UI issues were tackled, like problems in the social tab where spectate and join game options would disappear, or the leave as group function not working properly. There were also fixes around store pricing for certain regions and cosmetics not showing up the way they were supposed to. On the hero-specific side, they cleaned up things like Orisa's spear visual bug when using the spine stem update power, Moira's biotic orb bouncing off the wrong surfaces, and Soldier 76's supervisor ability interfering with ultimate charge. These aren't glamorous fixes, but they're the kind of polish that makes the game feel smoother and less frustrating when you're trying to play seriously. Now, when you take all of this together, the events, the competitive updates, the balance changes, and the fixes, you can see Blizzard trying to hit multiple goals at once. They're giving casual players fun new content to explore, they're rewarding longtime fans with the anniversary throwbacks, they're addressing competitive fairness with the lever compensation, and they're tuning heroes to keep the meta fresh. Some of these changes are going to be controversial. Genji players, for example, are not going to love that longer cooldown. Wrecking Ball mains will feel like their disruption potential just got cut short. On the other hand, Roadhog and Torbjorn fans are probably smiling right now because their picks just got a lot more rewarding. Widowmaker players, too, are going to feel more lethal with the grappling hook buff and the mine damage boost. And supports, especially Brigitte, finally get a little more oomph in their toolkit. If you step back and look at the bigger picture, this patch feels like one of those moments where the devs are trying to reset the board just a little bit.